How many has seen me speak before? And how about this one in particular? I know only one maybe. Okay, great. So, got some newbies. Yes, I do have a stump speech because we're really just saying the same thing. But believe it or not, I do throw in some new things in there to make it interesting. All right. We good, David? All right. Awesome. All right, I will unmute. So much technology. Okay. All right. All right, very good. All right, my name is Chetrice Mosley-Romero. I'm the Cybersecurity Program Director for the state of Indiana. Super excited to be here, appreciate the invite. I was hoping to be here earlier, but for having a state holiday, I was downtown working all morning and had a conference before this conference, and then ran from one side of the town to here. Why I do that is because I truly love my job. I really want to make sure that people know this isn't something I do just because I get paid to do it. This is all important, and so and it's important for people and officials like myself to show up even when it's not always the most convenient. But it works out for me because I also just live 30 minutes that way, so I'll just go ahead and have fun grabbing beer after. Okay, so my background is actually not technology. My background is a couple of IU degrees in communications, one in liberal arts and communications, and one in the School of Journalism in public relations. So I say that to you students because there is no one way to get to be the cybersecurity program director for a state, or even CISOs nowadays don't necessarily have technology backgrounds. Sometimes when you're looking at the problem, then you really realize you need more than technology. So for the sake of establishing the problem, I'm going to say, Jeremy and the gentleman beside you and the cameraman, you don't raise your hands, and you too, okay? Don't raise your hands. The rest of you, raise your hands really high, because I'm that speaker, right? Okay, so when you hear that there is a cybersecurity attack, you are the reason why it happens. Cybersecurity attacks, I know, don't worry. You're also the solution, good news. Cybersecurity attacks don't happen because of technology failures. That is only about 25%. Nowadays, it's actually more like 15%. We're looking at the reason why cyber attacks are happening, taking down our critical infrastructure, water supply, healthcare, energy, finances, personal. The reason why it happens is because it's a human error. It is because somebody didn't patch something, Equifax. It's because somebody didn't pay attention to what they were, putting onto the network because it was a smart device. It was because somebody clicked the link. Somebody saw that USB drive outside of work that said people were going to fire this month, and they just couldn't help it. And I get it. If I saw that, I would have a really hard time not putting that in my computer, but they couldn't help it, and that's why systems go down. These things are happening. I get reported. I know it sounds crazy, that USB thing. That actually is happening more and more. So it is happening, and the reason why it's happening is because the problem about cybersecurity is a people problem and an operations problem, not a technology problem. So I'm a big play on words person, so of course, when it's okay to be vulnerable to cybersecurity, most people are like, what? The cyber director is saying it's okay to be vulnerable? It is in a sense. When we look at the threat, it's real, right? We have data breaches that are in the millions. We have personal data, 45% of breaches. We have 94% of malware was delivered by email. See, they're counting on the people problem, right? We have almost $18,000 lost every minute due to a phishing attack. I know there's a nerd in here, or several. I'm always the person in the conference when somebody throws a minute or an hour thing. I'm like, how many in one day? It's significant, right? Worldwide crime in the trillions by 2025, if not sooner. So the two-sided coin of cybersecurity and vulnerability. One side of the coin is what you probably have heard about all day, right? The types of attacks, the type of attack vectors, the ransomwares, the insider threats, improper usage, personal identifiable information breaches, denial of service attacks, the things that are happening, the solutions that we need to have to take care of that, and the technical side, and some of the human factor side. But I want to talk about vulnerability in a different way today, all right? I want to talk about vulnerability from the human side. It is so important to understand when we think the word vulnerability, most people see that as a weakness. Most people see that as the hole in the system. Most people see it as something to be ashamed of, right? And this applies not just in our cybersecurity world. If anything, I've learned a lot about vulnerability on a personal my personal life, and have said, well, that's exactly cyber. And the vulnerability defined by science, Brene Brown, an amazing, I believe, psychiatrist, if not psychologist, she has done years, like decades of research in the human side of vulnerability. And it is the emotion we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Now think about cybersecurity attacks, right? Significant risk, uncertain risks, right? And definitely emotional exposure. When somebody gets attacked, it is not just a technical, oh, we're attacked, we move on, let's go get more donuts. It is holy crap, let's get out the bourbon. No, I'm just kidding, because you need to be doing the attack. But it is very stressful. It is something that will change a person's career. You know, as much, and just as a empathetic aspect for CIOs and CISOs, those people can do the best they can, have the best cybersecurity programs, but if somebody in the customer service division that they've never talked to before, if somebody in the maintenance division that has an email and is attached to their system because they also have to put in their HR stuff and all these other things, and they click a link, the CIO and CISO can't control human behavior, yet when they go through a breach, they're worried about losing their job. They're worried about getting the consequences. They're worried about reputation management. Companies are worried about reputation management and losing, you know, if not millions, because people don't trust the product anymore. All because of things they actually aren't certain that they can even manage. So we do our best, right? But I want to talk about vulnerability in a sense of it isn't just weakness. When we're looking at the human side of vulnerability, we're looking at, it's not about winning or losing. It's not about if you got breached, well, you suck, and if you didn't, well, you're awesome. It really can happen to anybody. I was at a conference one time with a lot of high-level officials in the federal government and generals and things like this, and I can't say who said it, but I just remember them saying, if you're a company or critical infrastructure and China and Russia or North Korea want to attack you and take you down, they're going to do it. You can have the best programs in place, and they're going to do it. What we can control is the preparation to that moment, lessening the probability because we're taking care of the human side of the shop, and teaching them not to click, not to pick up things, not to do certain things online. And we can prepare for how do we recover? Do we have backups? So even if they take us down, we can come back up from it, right? What are we doing to respond to it? How are we talking to each other about it? How do we get through it with the most ease, right? That is as important in cybersecurity as just figuring out don't get breached. So it's not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome. Our cyber charge is to keep being courageous. And when we define courage, it's the resistance to fear, the mastery of fear, not the absence of fear. I'm the cybersecurity program director. I am scared every day that I'm going to get woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning because our electric grid is down. Or I'm going to get a call from a hospital because their bedside systems are down and people are dying. Or financial institutions have been taken down and people are losing their minds and going to be a little cray-cray that day because they're going to go and start taking out ATMs to get cash. All these things happen. All these things are happening now. The war on Ukraine started with a cyber attack. It didn't start with kinetic attacks. It started with a cyber attack to their financial systems, their critical infrastructure systems. That is how the war, our modern war right now started. That's not going to be any different. That will happen moving forward. So what is the solution? Because now that I've told you the bleak picture of what we're dealing with and why I personally probably drink more than I should at night to go to sleep so I can actually get sleep. No, I'm just kidding. Just a couple of glasses of wine. Cyber courage is to keep learning. Exactly what you're doing today. You showed up, right? Courage sometimes is going into a situation that you don't 100% understand, like the big word of cybersecurity, and showing up to learn more. So keep learning. You attend conferences like this. You network with different sectors. Don't just get normal, just don't get used to just the people you talk to every day and your network contacts. Go outside that. Learn. If you talk and hear somebody that's like, they seem like they have a different perspective, learn from them. Exchange ideas. Understand those that you don't agree with. They have different perspectives, but I always kind of say, even with my talks, like, listen, if you hear what I say and you don't like all of it, that's cool. Take what you like and leave the rest. And then that's all we can do, right? That's how we can learn the best from each other. And then I'm not going to be offended. I'm just glad that you took something. Apply best practices for businesses and personal growth, not just cybersecurity and technology practices. It is a human. It's the people factor. It's the human factor that is taking down our systems. Learn about psychology, learn about the mind, learn how to motivate people, learn how to communicate with people. Things that, by the way, will help you in your life with your personal relationships, with your working relationships, with your bosses, with those vendors, with the regulators, all of them. You can benefit from the lessons in addition to how do we incorporate cybersecurity into a culture of our organization, of our home, than just say, we just don't want to get breached. Become proficient in psychology and behavior. This isn't going to go away. The number Verizon report in the last report, I believe they had 85% as the main reason why cybersecurity breaches occurred was because of a human error. That will probably get less and less and less. Our technology is growing fast. We have amazing technology. We have AI technology. We can do a lot of things that we couldn't do even 10 years ago in technology. But now that we have that part, we have to focus on the people part. Listen to TED Talks, listen to podcasts, not about cybersecurity, about people, about how we talk to people, how we communicate with people, our relationships with people. Because at the end of the day, when you're working and talking with a department, with the police, with all that, what is the common factor in all that? They are all people. And the way we respond to a crisis, whether it's a fire, a cyber attack, a flood, or tornado, is all the same on how we can best work with each other in a bad situation and in proactive situations. Read or be read to. Now I say or be read to because I'm old school. I like paper books. My husband, he loves his Audible, and he insists that he is so much better at reading because he reads like 3 times, 4 times as much as me because he's being told. Now that's our argument inside our house. I don't really consider that being read to, but for the nature that I get that I'm one of those dying breeds of people, I've even being read to. Look up really cool leadership talks, psychology talks, cybersecurity, hygiene, so on. Cyber courage is to share. Now, this is where being vulnerable gets a little tricky, right? Because if something's happening, you're trying to protect your systems, you don't want to share everything. But it's important to talk to other people that understand what you're going through. So help those in your organization understand what you do. So for the students, as you start getting into the organizations and you're in the break rooms, or you're going to all employee meetings, and this is for everybody, right? Talk to somebody outside your division. Figure out how they work, what they do. Seek to understand, and then let them know what you do. That is how we develop an appreciation across the board, internally and then externally as well. Share with the right people inside and outside your organization. And let me be clear, having boundaries with sharing, just because I'm saying it's important to share information with key trusted sources, don't fully disclose. That's still just stupid. and unprofessional, and you would be violating security protocols as you don't want to, and yes, you should get fired if that's the case. But where appropriate, talk about what you do at a high level. If you're not sure, talk to your boss, talk to other leadership to see what you can share. And if you go through a bad day, that's why these conferences, networking, getting to know other people that you do trust on a good day. So on a bad day, you can contact them and say, hey, I know you're going to keep this between us, but I need somebody to throw ideas against because I am freaking out over here. I'm probably going to get fired, but I need to fix the problem. Maybe I won't because I'm efficient in that. So you have trust resources. I get calls all the time, and it's always a very hard call because I'm like, what can I do? I'm the state though, right? So I am very happy to be like, listen, I don't want you to feel like you disclose anything to state that you're going to have to take back, but here's a trusted source of mine. Talk to this person, they're brilliant, and they can probably bounce some great ideas off of you, right? So getting that network in there. And have empathy for those who are being courageous too. Because it could have been you. You know, at the end of the day, we're still people. People mess up. And you know, we're not in the business to crucify anyone. Who here remembers, and I don't know if the students will, but I know the older, how do you, my communications manager always says he's one of the olds, who remembers the Target breach, right? They were crucified in the media. I remember it. There was boycotts against Target for being breached. It was one of the largest breaches in U.S. history for about 10 years. Not even close anymore. There's been way bigger breaches since. But it was just so beyond our society that a company that we go shop at and we give them money, and you know, I'm a big lover of Target as the next best, but there were people who just they boycotted. I'm not going to go to Target. They don't keep my information safe. So here's the thing. You want to know the reason for that breach? It was not a Target employee. It was an HVAC system. It was through a connection of HVAC system into their system that caused the breach. People don't realize that. They think it was actually Target. So how did Target feel in that situation? I would not have wanted to be in that room. Like, this isn't even our fault. But it is, because I'm sure somebody in the management was like, we need to take care of this, let's get it done. And they didn't communicate with their IT people that it was happening, so they could ask the questions, hey, how are you protecting us? How are you plugging into our systems? Are we plugging them into the right systems so it's segmented from our systems? There could have been things they could have done if internally they were talking more. Cyber courage is to take risks. Be innovative. You know, creativity and innovation when it comes to people and behavior change, you need it. The way that we're doing things right now is not the way that it's working, right? With 85% of breaches being human error, we clearly haven't figured it out, right? There's a lot of room for improvement there. So what can we do? I'm a very unique person. I love talking to vendors because vendors are thinking about solutions outside the box. They're thinking about, well, everybody's done it this way, but why don't we do this, this, and this? Doesn't that eliminate this, and that fixes this, and actually does a bonus over here? Like, hearing them think through that, because this is their livelihood, right? This is what puts, you know, bread and butter on their table. Like, they care about what's happening, and yes, they want to make money, but why is that bad? We're in a free market. That's a good thing, right? So listen to them, learn from them, figure out how we can be innovative in our thinking. And again, another reason why we learn, you know, psychology, we learn other aspects, and not just tech, behavior, what is sociology doing, what are liberal arts, how are people in journalism really communicating with the public? Well, maybe we can use some best practices there to communicate about cybersecurity out to the people, right? Be uncomfortable. If you're too comfortable in your organization, if you go into an organization and everybody's like, yeah, our cybersecurity is awesome. If they have humans, it's not awesome. It's about 15% awesome if they have a great cybersecurity program. They still have people as the main vector. So if everyone's comfortable, I'm always question the organization that comes up and says, we're perfect. I'm like, oh, don't say that out too loud, because there's going to be a hacker in the room that will prove you otherwise. Embrace your vendors, as I talked about. They are an amazing area to apply things they've learned and grow your knowledge on how people are thinking outside the box. And regulators are people too. You know, one of my previous roles was an executive director of external affairs at Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Oh, that was a long title. Anyway, and so I learned a lot about regulation in utilities, a lot. And oh my gosh, I still use everything I learned in this, but what I did learn from the get-go is regulators are not out to get the people they're regulating. They're out to serve the public the best. They're out to serve, example, the ratepayers the best. And it's really about that, right? It's not anything personal to the utilities. It's really about the mission to protect the public. So when we're looking at cybersecurity, it's not the utility or those being regulated versus the regulators. It's our industry versus the bad cyber actors. And if we put our focus on that, then we could do a lot more. So join me in the arena. I want to read this. It's a long quote, but it's a powerful quote because every single one of you, whether you're already in your field or students, this is the way that you should approach coming into cybersecurity, that you're part of something bigger. So I love the man in the arena quote by President Theodore Roosevelt because you read it, and this was like 1910 when he said this, and it's important to know that it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And oh God, I need to get this like painted on my wall at home. It is such a powerful quote. You are all in the arena, right? We are all in the arena. And it is so easy to look at another organization or other people or in your studies to say, well, they should have done this, they should have done that, they should have done that. They're part of the arena that you're in too. So how would you have done it to be an asset to that person who's going through that? How would you have done that to help the person, right? Because we're all in it. Outside, the things that's getting thrown at us in the arena, the thing we're fighting in the arena is the major, huge monster of cyber attacks, of nation states, of people who don't like our democracy, of people who want to just cause mayhem because they have some mental illness, right? You know, the people who have dark pasts that are out to just hurt people. This is important in cybersecurity. It's important to know that you're not just going to be, for students, you're not just going to be this security analyst that doesn't really mean anything. You're a part of a bigger picture, and every security analyst counts in the arena. And everybody who supports and is not just a tech person, but an ambassador for cybersecurity, how important it is. The people who support the technology sector and the cybersecurity sector, they're in the arena too. Right? And that's how we can make a difference in cybersecurity. I'm just glad I didn't cry. Okay. The state's arena. Indiana Executive Council on Cybersecurity. So this is the amazing group I get to lead. Many people, many contacts here, Dave, Dr. Frank, sit in the council, Ron, and Jeremy. I appreciate you guys. This is what we do. We cross-sector exactly the things I talked about. Funny enough, this is one of my new presentations. I just started using this year, this last few months, because I really wanted to do something different. But we've been doing this since 2017, right? And we've been talking about how do we cross-sector, how do we talk with each other, how do we be better with each other, how do we get best practices from a huge organization like a Chase Bank or Duke Energy or an AT&T, we get it. You have like 30 people working on this. You may have hundreds of people working on this. But the small utility or the small business or the mom and pop cupcake shop or my favorite wine dispensary, like they all need cybersecurity, but they are never going to hire a chief information officer, nor should they, right? That doesn't make sense for them, right? But they can care about cybersecurity. They can incorporate cyber hygiene. And how can we then take and simplify what you all have paid a lot of money for, these big organizations, and simplify it to something they can do? And so in this IECC, we have more than 250 courageous cyber warriors who all work within their scope. You know, one of the things I was important to me as the director of this, and I developed this whole thing from ground up, was it wasn't enough when we talk about, okay, if the problem is a people problem, then why are we having a bunch of tech people figure that out? When we have public relations people of 40 years who know how to talk to people and communicate, when we have people who know how to train and get people to change behavior, what are we doing about cyber sharing? Well, okay, somebody may be very technically focused, but other people are experts at how we do awareness and training, right? Or legality. Well, no CIO should be focusing on legal stuff, right? And they're definitely not going to come up with the solution for legal stuff like cyber insurance, cyber law. Well, why are we not just talking to 10, 12 brilliant people that have literally done this their entire careers and can, like, off the top of their head tell you what works and doesn't work, right? Like, so that is why it wasn't because I really, really want a whole bunch of people to manage, because they're all executive cats, which, as you get older, students, you will learn they are always very difficult to get heard. But when you get them together and you get them on mission, they are amazing at what they do. And they get cut through years of what would have taken me just figuring it out and doing Google research to do it. So use the experts in the field, and that's what we have. We have experts in every one of those columns and steps that focus on cybersecurity in that expertise. So Cybersecurity Hub website, in.gov/cyber, or if you throw in Indiana and cybersecurity, we come up pretty high now because we get a lot of visits and we're gov. But we can report a cybercrime if you don't know, sector-specific information, training, strategic plan, events. And as you can tell, oh look, I don't know where you're at, but I'm actually going to use the thing. I never use it, but he really went out of his way to show me where it is, so I felt pressure to use it. But in here, so write this down, save it. I wanted people to come to this website and not be bombarded, NIST, with a whole bunch of things nobody understands, right? Federal government. So it was important to me that when you come in, you can answer who you are, right? Very easy question. What am I? I'm government, I'm education, I'm individual, assess yourself, cyber strategy. And then when you click in one, like this is government, you again have your assess yourself. Inside joke, I'll tell you guys, I really pushed hard to do assess yourself before you wreck yourself here. They did not let me. Something about copyright. Best practices and standards, elections, cyber laws, workforce development, emergency response. Make it simple, right? Like, it's like what we're all used to nowadays, right? Who stays on a website that's just all words? And again, I'm not technology myself, so if I don't understand it, I'm like, well, that's a no-go, because if I don't understand it, and I do this every day, you can't expect people who are just coming to this fresh to understand it. And then we even go into cybersecurity, incident response resources. We've developed some amazing toolkits over the years. One of our most downloaded toolkits is our emergency manager cybersecurity toolkit, which I'm very excited to say Anderson University has agreed to assist the Indiana Executive Council in updating this and providing better guidance in the templates so that people can use these templates on a really bad day. So thank you, and thank you for the students that are in the thing. I'm very excited about that. And then we even have like a training and exercise guide. We have quick response guide. See, I got too crazy with a thing, and now I'm clicking through things. This is why I don't do it. Okay, we have a state guide, cybersecurity resources, Bibliography, because students, yes, you still have to give credit even when you're an adult to things you use. So it's not an annoying, it's annoying, but you got to do it. And then we have cyber incidents. Now, who here knows who they would call if something bad happened? What's the answer? Somebody by Jeremy? Put your hand up. You're literally the only one. I like it. Yes, you know who to call because you're part of it. All right, excellent. That is a hard question because most people, especially on a bad day, literally, it's fight, flight, or freeze, right? So some people are like, I don't know. Other people are like, I don't call everybody. And then some people are like, I'm call my boss, it's not my deal. So here's some tips. Reporting cybercrime. Cybersecurity, cyber attacks, and it gets through, it is still by law a cybercrime. So just like when your house gets broken into, you should be calling the police. When your systems get broken into, you should call the police. So we have call FBI, they have a great place, ISP, and if lives are in danger, 911. And if you don't know and you can't find it, go to Indiana, in.gov/cybersecurity. It's the very top thing, most visited site page, so I'm glad somebody's using it. Step 2, additional reporting. So sometimes when you're in certain regulated areas or you're a type of organization like local government, for example, there are laws in which you have to report in addition to getting it to the law enforcement. So Indiana Office of Technology for local government entities, that's a new law that's just recently passed. Indiana Attorney General, if there's a breach, even local governments, we are required to still report it. Even states, if it happens state agency, like the state's not excused from that law. If we messed up or somebody messed up and information is out, then there's protocol by law to do, and we have to go through the Attorney General's office. Homeland Security, regulators, Secretary of State. And then you're dealing with this big problem, right? So utilize your resources. This is just a couple of the resources on there, but calling the Department of Homeland Cybersecurity an infrastructure security agency. This is a new agency, so it's kind of fun to see them going. I really, for the first 3 years when I was in this role, I was like, let me know when you guys decide what you want to be when you grow up. And they were like, yeah, we're trying to figure that out. COVID, man, they showed up. They shifted it. They are one of the best agencies I work with now. And they really are trying their hardest to figure out what can we do at the federal level to help even the mom and pop cupcake place. And then we go to associations, MSISAC, because government loves their acronyms, Multi-State Information Sharing Analysis Center. And even industries may have information analysis centers like energy, finance, water, wastewater, so on. I'm going to skip that because who wants to read law? I just talked about it anyway. All right, so coming soon. Healthcare Cyber in a Box Toolkit was just recently soft launched, but we're finalizing it right now, so that's going to be coming out with a bang. Cybersecurity Insurance Toolkit, Privacy Toolkit. These are toolkits that are made, by the way, not for just anybody. They are made for small and medium-sized businesses, then nonprofits and organizations that just do not and will never have a cybersecurity staff. And that's okay, right? We just got to provide them the tools, just like we do Business 101, just when we do Financing 101 for business owners, right? We need to do Cybersecurity 101 and how we integrate it. Updating the National Emergency Manager Toolkit, as I just spoke about a little bit ago. National policy study of all 50 states, because I'm a big believer when we're talking about cybersecurity policy, because I did policy for years, wrote law, assisted in writing law, and also assisted in telling legislators that is a bad idea on behalf of the government. Do not do that. You're going to hurt people. I know you don't intend to do that. So I'm a huge believer from my stint in policymaking that you always start with research. So by the way, also students, and I'm sure people in the real world do this, but when they were like, go research something, go write, that is and should be what you always start with, because we should always start with what's out there as a foundation. PII guidebook, personal identifiable information, and a cybersecurity sharing model, how you can best share depending on what level you are and what you need to share. All right, that is what I have today. I am more than happy to take questions, although I do know I'm the closing keynote, so I won't be offended. But any questions about tips, or a question I sometimes get is, what's the scariest thing you've heard, or tip that you might consider? Well, I mean, now that I threw that out there, right? They're like, and? So one of the things I consider is, how many of you guys have rented or been in a rental car? Right? Exactly. So rental cars are newer, and they're smart cars, which means they're computers, right? So when you sign that agreement and you're like, hey, I'm going to use this and borrow this, and I'll take care of it over the next 2 or 3 days, then that's great. And what do you do as soon? Who, including myself, I did this. Who plugs in their phone to get it charged? Or do calls, or do, get your contacts, music, whatever, right? So, and that's makes sense, right? That's what you do in your car, so why wouldn't you do it in this car? So a fun thing I learned at a law enforcement forensics digital thing is actually literally, it was 2.5 days. This was the only thing that would allow me to talk about outside of that training, which I did drink a lot after that training. Anyway, so I'm not even gonna lie about that. I may have had more than just a couple of glasses of wine on that one. So what they talked about was cyber criminals, because law enforcement does this too, by the way. So criminals who think they can go and go and rent a car and do their thing, doesn't really work, because they still put their phone in, and then they have where they went and dropped off the body. So what they do is you do that, you submit it. Well, it's a smart car, it's a computer. They do not just use the information you use in the car. They will sometimes download everything off your phone, all your pictures, any of the logins that are available, your notes, your not just your music covers, but all of it, right? You may have texted a couple of times. They will download all your texts. That's scary. I mean, I don't know about you, but I never really send texts. Well, there was a time in my life where I would have been really embarrassed by that. So, and then cyber criminals, why wouldn't they? They would just go and just get the car and just be a normal person. I'm going to go borrow this car, and then they just take it to their garage and download all that information. You want to know how sometimes these high-level people get blackmailed? That's how they get blackmailed. Other thing, hotels. Who gets really excited when they say it's free Wi-Fi? Right? Yeah, not free. You're just going to give your information. Cyber criminals, a very regular thing they do is they just go sit in hotels, especially when they know there's critical infrastructures like conferences going on, and people are just using the open Wi-Fi, not VPNing, not using a secure Wi-Fi, right? Not using one with a password, and they are just collecting all that information and getting access to everything on your computer. These threats are real. They are actually happening. People get this information. They use it for blackmail. They use it for background so that they can do better phishing campaigns to their executives, right? That is how they're using it. They use it for social engineering. So now you know. So if you do it, then you do it at risk. But
the car key, or the rumors were, keep them, delete, take them home with you because they got your stuff on.
The car key?
The key that you use to get into the room.
Oh, the card key. I haven't heard that one. I might ask my.
I keep mine all the time, but then I'm like,
I'll ask my FBI.
In the dish, so I'll just throw it in the dish.
That's, yeah, I'll ask my FBI friend on that one. That's a new one. So.
Supposed to trash those that have information, in particular financial information, credit cards.
Oh, connected to your hotel account. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Man, barcodes, man. And just shred them. Yep. It's a good idea. All right. All right, well, thank you all so much for allowing me to be your closing. Hopefully I made you laugh and leave on a high note. But thank you all so much, and I appreciate you all being in the arena with me. So have a good day.